Hey guys, it's Danconia and welcome back to the Overwatch League Roundup 2020. So, it's time for Power Rankings Part 2. Now, if you missed Part 1, we did places 10 through to 20th yesterday. It will be linked up in the eye in the corner of the screen. But, today we're going to do 1 through to 9. Obviously, we'll do 9 first and work up the league. And this is where things get very interesting because a lot of these teams could interchange, especially the first 5 or so. They really could interchange, but I'm fairly confident about my top 4. Let's put it that way. Unless one team really does sort itself out. But in 9th, I've got the Guangzhou Charge. So, Guangzhou Charge, I think, could really be a thorn in the side of the bigger teams this season. I think they have a roster which really has got some quality. I think bringing in Neptuno with a lot of experience is really good. And Krong on a main tank role coming in from O2 Blast I think is also a really good pickup for the Charge. But I'm not sure whether it's enough to make them compete with the other teams above them. They may be able to get up a few places above perhaps the 8th and 7th place teams, which we'll go over in a minute, who are falling down the league. But in terms of the top 6, looking at my top 6, I think the teams that I've put in my top 6 have actually got more quality than Guangzhou Charge have. Although, again, they could be a breakthrough team this season, Guangzhou Charge. They certainly could be one of those sleeper teams that surprise a lot of the bigger teams in the league. So, I wouldn't be surprised to see them go up the power rankings in mid-season, but it'll be interesting to see where we go from there. But in 8th, I have the Los Angeles Gladiators. Now, this is perhaps slightly odd from a certain perspective, because in the past 2 seasons, the Los Angeles Gladiators have actually been fairly consistent. I believe they were something like 4th in the inaugural season, and they were 5th last year. So, the Gladiators have always been a consistent team, but I now have them down in 8th. Why? Well, because I think they hinge on 2 very big components being good in some respects. That's Birdwing and OG. So, OG's come in from Dallas Fuel as a main tank, and Birdwing's come in from London Spitfire, obviously on that hitscan DPS role. Now, OG, I think, has the potential to be a really good main tank. We just haven't seen it. And the question is, can the Los Angeles get it out of him? Putting him alongside Space, or perhaps even Bishu. It'll be interesting, but if OG doesn't work for the LA Gladiators, they only have LH Cloudy to fall back on. And LH Cloudy did not look like anything special for the Paris Eternal last season. So, I think if the main tank role goes, say, tits up for the Los Angeles Gladiators this season, then it could be a big problem for them. Again, there's another team with the same issue, but I'm slightly more worried for that other team rather than the Gladiators. Then there's the Birdwing issue. Birdwing really didn't look like he was on form last season at all. He didn't look interested anymore. He looked really out of it. Now that could have been the meta's fault. Now, is Birdwing flexible enough in a hero pool meta? Birdwing was really good on McCree and Widowmaker, but say you wanted a Tracer, well, it was Prophet who was normally playing the Tracer for London Spitfire. So, Birdwing, I don't know. It's going to be difficult to call with Birdwing, but one thing I do like about the Gladiators is they do have the backup of Jaru and Mirror. So, they're not just relying on Birdwing, but I think he has the potential to be a star player for this roster, Birdwing. The question is, will he? Will he be that star player that we know he can be? One thing that is really good for the Gladiators, though, is them keeping their support line very consistent with Shaz and Big Goose. I think they are 2 fantastic supports, and the synergy brought from years of playing together has really helped the Gladiators along the way with their consistency, and I'm glad to see them doing well as well. And they could get perhaps the best out of LH Cloudy, maybe, considering they're all from Finland. And Paintbrush, again, adding to the depth of this squad. I really like it. It's actually quite a well-rounded squad, but I just don't think it's quite got the quality at the moment, or there's too many questions over its quality, to put it with the teams I've got higher up on this list. So just above the Los Angeles Gladiators, in 7th, I've got the Hangzhou Spark, again falling down the league, out of those playoff places. The Hangzhou Spark, again, they've kept things fairly consistent. Gujue, Adora, Ria, and the likes. But Bebe, their flex support, was nothing, outstanding, shall we say. He was decent, but he really didn't make the star flashy plays like we expect from perhaps the flex support that normally we see pop off. And then they have the 2 new signings, Coldest and Mika. So I like Coldest. I think that's a good signing. But I don't think it's improving the quality of the Hangzhou Spark. And I said this in their team preview. I worry that the Hangzhou Spark could suffer from stagnation in this season. I think a lot of the teams around them have improved significantly. And I think that just means that they become a victim of that stagnation. I think they drop down a few places just because other teams have overtaken them in quality because they've improved more than the Hangzhou Spark have. And Hangzhou Spark can't now keep up with those teams because they didn't improve enough to keep up with them. That was my issue with the Hangzhou Spark, and I think that might come back to bite them slightly. I still think it is a very good quality roster though, and they could sneak into those playoff places, but I think there are some teams that have just got a bit more quality than them that are going to squeeze them out right now. But again, it could change during the season, and it kind of depends on what we see in the hero pools as well. So, that rounds off my play-in spots. Now it's time for the top 6, the playoff spots, the automatic playoff spots. And the first team occupying one of those spots in 6th place is the Philadelphia Fusion. So, Philadelphia Fusion was slap bang middle of the league last year. And they weren't anything special, and I think they relied way too much on Carpe. But Philadelphia Fusion have moved to change that this year, and I think that is really, really good. Now, they're going to have to wait a little bit, but I think one of the biggest signings for the Philadelphia Fusion in this offseason is Hisu. Now, Hisu won't be of age until late March, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I don't think Philadelphia Fusion are lacking too much without him, but I think Hisu is the first time we're going to see proper competition for Carpe, and I think that is what Philadelphia Fusion needed badly. I think they relied way too much on Carpe, and it showed last season. Carpe did not live up to what he was in the inaugural season because the meta didn't favour him. Whereas Hisu, I think he's that little bit more flexible than Carpe is. And he's going to actually, if the meta goes back to, say, what Carpe favoured in the inaugural season, more Widowmaker, more McCree, Hisu can also challenge him on that. So, I think this actually might be a move that gets the best out of Carpe, and gives you a really great young player from Runaway and Element Mystic, Hisu, as well. And I think Hisu could be another star DPS coming into the league when he comes of age, just like Sparkle for the Paris Eternal. So, it's not just that though. The Philadelphia Fusion have made some really good signings in this offseason. Alarm being promoted from the Fusion University is a fantastic signing. He was one of the best and most sought after young supports coming into this 2020 season. Then we have Fury, the off-tank. Again, D.Va is looking like she is creeping back into the meta. When you look at the rumours going around that the meta currently is perhaps Reinhardt D.Va. And if that is so, Fusion's pickup of Fury is just fantastic. And he will be the best D.Va. He might not be the best D.Va in the league, but he certainly could be the best D.Va in the league. He'll be right up there with them, that's for sure. And the only question I have is how they're going to keep both Poco and Fury happy. They are 2 off-tanks that could easily be starting for teams. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens there. Again, there's the elephant in the room of like Chipsa. Chipsa is a very specialized pick. I don't expect Chipsa to be featuring a lot of the time. I think he'll just be someone they pick out when they really need that specialized pick. Or they're short on players, obviously. I think they've got some really good DPS like Carpe, EQO, and we've also just mentioned Hisu as well, coming in March. They, I think, come ahead of Chipsa already, so it's a bit of a confusing signing, Chipsa, but for squad depth, it's fantastic. Funny Astro, Alarm, and Boombox, I think, is great in terms of supports. I don't think you can get much better than that. Boombox has been really, really stable throughout the time at the Fusion, and Alarm looks really good coming into the league. Obviously, I've already mentioned him. Funny Astro is also very good. He's had really good times in Tier 2 and with the Overwatch World Cup squad for United Kingdom. So I think Funny Astro also is a great squad depth pick, although I don't think Funny Astro will be the one to start. It's a really well-rounded roster, and perhaps the only question you have over the Philadelphia Fusion is their main tank, Sado. And to be quite honest, looking at what you've got at the Fusion now, they might just be able to get the best out of Sado. I don't think we've seen the best of Sado, and maybe, just maybe, his best is yet to come in 2020. If not, I think it's something the Philadelphia Fusion can act on in the season, because remember, they can still make transfers, and the rest of the squad looks really good. So Philadelphia Fusion are looking on the up compared to some of the other teams. Now, in 5th, we have the Vancouver Titans. So the Vancouver Titans are falling down the league. Now, the reason for this, wholly and solely, is Fisher. I'm sorry, it just is. Why change up a squad that had so much synergy with Bumper? They knew how he played. They could, as I said in their preview, turn the way he played from a disadvantage, which it might be on other teams, to an advantage just because they were so well integrated with each other, because they were runaway previously. So I think it's perhaps a panic move from Vancouver, looking at what San Francisco Shock did at the end of last season. It might just be that, but I think it hurts them. I really do think it hurts them. Now, if they can keep Fisher in check, if they can get the best out of Fisher, this could be a Vancouver Titans squad that surprises people. This could be a Vancouver Titans squad that really does give the Shock a run for its money. But that is a very big if. Remember that Fisher was one of the best main tanks in the league at his height on the LA Gladiators. He changed that squad's fortunes around. The question is, can Vancouver get back to that Fisher and maintain that Fisher? If they can, they'll be right at the top tussling with Shock. But I really have my doubts over that. So that's why the Vancouver Titans are in 5th. Now, in 4th, we have the Atlanta Reign. And I know this is slightly lower than other people's power rankings. And there's kind of a reason for that. Now, when you look at the Atlanta Reign squad, I absolutely love the depth this squad has got. They've recently made 2 very important signings, and that was 2 more support players. So this is Fire and Kodak. Kodak obviously was at the Atlanta Reign, got moved to the Atlanta Academy, and now he's been promoted again back to the Reign. And Fire comes in from Team Envy. I think this was crucial, because this has only literally just happened. Like on the 31st of January, this has happened. And I think it's absolutely crucial to the Reign, because I was worried about their lack of depth in supports. They had Massa and Dogman, and that was it. I think this really does round out this Reign squad. It's a 12-man roster as well. It's a real chunky roster. There's not a lot of rosters that are a full 12 at the moment. London Spitfire come to mind for one of them, and Shanghai Dragons is another. But I think this Reign squad has got a lot of quality to it, and I think they will be right up there, to be quite honest, this season. And I think actually the top 4 in my power rankings could be pretty close. And your powers of deduction can probably tell you who those top 4 are. So I think they will be pretty close, these top 4 teams. Atlanta Reign have the possibility of surprising the league this season. And they could really, really surprise the league. Like, I'm talking perhaps win it. If they can get things right. If they can just get things right. And I think there's a possibility that they can do that. The additions of Edison and Sharp, I think, are fantastic. That's 2 really good DPS players to be picking up, with Edison coming in from GC Busan Wave. He's only 18. He's got a really varied hero pool. Sharp did really well for Team Envy in NA Contenders last season. And I think this is really good. I think this is really, really good for the Atlanta Reign. But I think the teams I've put above them right now have just got that tiny bit more. That tiny bit more than the Reign have. Again, they're interchangeable. You could put Reign at 2nd, maybe even 1st if you want to be ballsy. But at the moment, I'm comfortable in putting the Reign 4th. But that, you can have your own opinion on that, whatever. Now in 3rd, I have my biggest movers. My absolute biggest movers. I really, really rate this team this season. It's the Shanghai Dragons. Now, Shanghai Dragons improved massively in 2019. They were abysmal in the inaugural season, I'm sure we will all know. But in 2019, they really did improve. Now I think they can take this further. The additions they've made in this off-season, they have made a lot of additions, let's not get this wrong. Fletter, Lip, Void, Stand 1, Lee Jae-gon and Fearless. They've made a lot of additions, but I think they are mostly really good additions. And again, it's kind of similar to the Philadelphia Fusion. The only question I have with the Shanghai Dragons is their main tank Stand 1, which is almost certainly going to be their starting main tank. I would have thought their starting tanks would be Stand 1 and Void. Now, Void is good. Stand 1 comes in from Contenders. I'm not sure whether Stand 1 was the best pick for the Dragons, but they could really get the best out of him. I think Gamzu's a bit of a loss. I'm not going to lie. but I really like the rest of the Shanghai squad. So you've got Li Jaegong coming in from Runaway. I think that's a fantastic pickup. To be quite honest, I would have said Li Jaegong was a fantastic pickup for pretty much any team in the league. So I think this is really good for the Shanghai Dragons. It really puts some more quality into that support line alongside Luffy and Izayaki. So I think we're looking at the Shanghai Dragons squad that can really compete. And I'm not joking. I really rate this Shanghai squad, especially when I saw them at the Shanghai Masters Invitational at the end of last year, because I had some questions, right? We know Fletter can be good. We've seen him be good with the Seoul Dynasty, a similar case to Birdring actually. We know he can be really good at the Seoul Dynasty. He was good at the Seoul Dynasty in the inaugural season, but they also have really quality players in DM and Ding. I know DM is currently ill right now and won't be participating in the early part of the season, but what I was really impressed by was Lip. Now Lip comes in from Blossom. I was skeptical about this signing. I really was. I thought, well, why have they kind of signed him? He doesn't look like he's the kind of DPS player that Shanghai Dragons need. Shanghai Dragons really needed quality, and Lip didn't look like that. But then when I saw him in the Shanghai Invitational, changed my whole perception. Lip was the standout player for the Shanghai Dragons that day. And they played pretty much everyone. They played all their DPS players. So I think the Shanghai Dragons have got real quality and real depth coming into this season, especially if they can get the best out of, remember they've still got Deer on a two-way, Gaguri as well, and I really think there's quality in this squad, and they've got depth as well with the backup main tank Fearless that they promoted back to their main squad from Team CC. So a lot of potential in the Shanghai Dragons squad, and I really think they should be up there for the playoffs this season, and I think it'll be disappointing if they're not actually. And I wouldn't be surprised if they give teams like New York and perhaps the Shock a run for their money. I would not be surprised. A real sleeper team, the Shanghai Dragons this season. Although some people might argue with that. But in number 2, we have got the New York Excelsior. So, New York Excelsior, I'm actually really impressed. They've kept things pretty stable, and we got worried about the New York Excelsior when they let go of Meko to the Houston Outlaws, and I thought that was a really weird thing to do. But what they did is they brought in 2 more off tanks, namely Hotba and Bianco. Hotba, really stable, has been good in the past for both Philadelphia Fusion and the Guangzhou Charge, and has a really varied hero pool, which is going to be great for the hero pools coming up. And then Bianca is really young, so I think that's a great investment for the future as well. When Hotba becomes more aged, perhaps Hotba wants to move on, perhaps retire into a coaching role, Bianca can step right in and has been playing with the squad for ages, so you've got that great depth. Now obviously that's far future, but also I like the acquisition of Who Are You. Who Are You has a lot of history in Overwatch esports. You know, he's won competitions in North America with Philadelphia Fusion's University, the Fusion University when it was around. And then he's also won stuff with Lunatic High. Back in the day, you know, Apex Season 3, Apex Season 2. He has winners medals from that. Who Are You? Definite quality. And I think it adds some more competition to that DPS line in New York. I think New York has a ridiculous amount of quality in their DPS. When you look at Nene, Who Are You, Libero and Sabiobi, we had some weak links in the DPS for Excelsior last season when you looked at Flower. I don't see a weak link in New York Excelsior's DPS at all at the moment. Obviously, Pine, we loved Pine, but I don't think we're going to see Pine. You know, Pine is now a streamer. I don't think we're ever going to see Pine again in the league and on the stage. It's a shame to see him go, but I think there's still great quality in New York Excelsior's DPS line. And also the acquisition of Mandu, although we probably won't see much of him in playing support for New York Excelsior this season because he will be ineligible. I think that's another great pickup as well, coming from O2 Blast. Real high quality player, and again, another investment for the future for the New York Excel. I think New York, I would be surprised if they weren't the challengers to the Shock this season. I think they've got more chance of being the challengers to the Shock than the Vancouver Titans have. And then there might be some surprise teams, as I mentioned, the Shanghai Dragons and Atlanta Reign. I think all these teams could be pretty tight. But obviously, at the top of the standings, I'm sure you will not be surprised, it's the San Francisco Shock. And why? Because they're the Shock. They are so good. They have got World Cup winners now. They have got Choi Hyobin, who will undoubtedly be the off tank to beat in this season. Will there be an off tank that can go toe to toe with Choi Hyobin? who bloomin' knows, to be quite honest with you. He had a great Sigma, he's great on the Roadhog, he's great on the Diva, he's honestly great on the Zarya as well. Choyoben, great all-rounder off-tank. Obviously you've got Super in the main tank role, you've got Smurf there as well, which can provide competition for Super. I think that was really well handled by the San Francisco Shock last season, where they played Super when, you know, Ryan was meta and Goats and stuff like that. Super was fantastic. But when the things got slightly murky with the Orisa, Smurf stepped in. Smurf was really good. Saw them to the win in the playoffs, which I think was great for the San Francisco Shock. Then they've got the really, really good support line with Moth and Violet. There is no need to disturb that whatsoever. Best support line in the league without a doubt right now, when you look at statistics and stuff like that. Really good support. And then they have got a wealth of DPS talent with Striker, with Sinatra, with Architect, with Rascal, who can flex as well. Remember, we've seen Rascal play Baptiste before. But they've also made one addition, and this is ANS or Ansan Sniper. Obviously, as in the name, Widowmaker Specialist. Great on the snipers. And I think this is something that San Francisco Shock actually lacked last season. When you look at a lot of other teams, we've seen a lot of really staple headlining Widowmaker players. Like, you go back to the inaugural season, headlining Widowmaker player were, you would think of Carpe, you would think of Birdring. Decay was also really, really good for the LA Gladiators on Widowmaker as well. Happy can be pretty good on the Widowmaker for Guangzhou Charge. And I think San Francisco Shock lacked that big name Widow player. Anson Sniper will be that Widowmaker player. I'm almost certain of that. He is a fantastic Widow. And it's definitely squad depth. So San Francisco Shock, I would not be expecting ANS to be starting games for the Shock. But they have kept the squad consistent. There is no surprises about that. They were so good at the end of last year. And I expect that momentum to be carried into 2020, no doubt. And they are the team to beat. They have got a massive target on their backs. Now, the only question is for the Shock, the Champions Curse? Maybe. London obviously failed miserably last year, considering they were champions. So maybe there is a Champions Curse and the Shock might just slip up. But there are plenty of teams that are going to be trying to bite at the Shock's heels. The Excelsior, the Dragons, the Reign, the Titans if they can keep Fisher in check, the Fusion maybe. There's a lot of teams that are going to be really, really looking to take the Shock down this season. It'll be interesting to see how they respond to that. I'm sure they will respond to it in their stride, especially Super. So, those were my power rankings for 2020. Feel free to argue. Feel free to put yours in the comments below. I know that mine are going to be slightly controversial, especially London and perhaps Shanghai being a bit too high. But I really believe that those teams can achieve those places. I really do. So, just to run through it one more time. San Francisco Shock at 1. 2 New York Excelsior, 3 Shanghai Dragons, 4 Atlanta Reign, 5 Vancouver Titans, 6 Philadelphia Fusion, 7 Hangzhou Spark, 8 Los Angeles Gladiators, 9 Guangzhou Charge, 10 Seoul Dynasty, 11 London Spitfire, 12 Chengdu Hunters, 13th Toronto Defiant, 14th Florida Mayhem, 15th Dallas Fuel, 16th Houston Outlaws, 17th Washington Justice, 18th Paris Eternal, 19th Los Angeles Valiant, and 20th Boston Uprising. So, that will be it for the power rankings. I will revise these power rankings at some point. It actually would be interesting to do some power rankings perhaps week on week as the meta changes when Hero Pools comes in, because those power rankings, they're going to be all over the place because some teams will be better in certain metas than others. But we have still got a few more Overwatch League roundups before the season kicks off next weekend. I will do a week 1 preview. I will do a meta look as well, that we will see perhaps the only meta or, you know, actual staple meta this season in the first month, because then it all changes. And then obviously we'll do an overall season preview as well with the format and talent and stuff like that, if the Overwatch League will ever confirm the actual full talent roundup. But hey, who knows? But for now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.